In this week's episode, I want to build on what we started last week in the garden and show you a way to approach a complex subject. Our subject is looking down on the city of Boston from a rooftop. I was there with several other artists and we had a fun morning painting the skyline of Boston. There's a couple of tips and tricks along the way that I want to share with you, so look for those. Anyway, let's get up on the rooftop and start our painting. I think we're probably the only ones on a roof deck today. I'm on my way to work, as you can tell, in the middle of Boston. Today we're going to be doing something quite unique. That is, we're going to be painting from a aerial view looking down on the city of Boston. Usually, I'm not a big on erasing because sometimes the lines add something. And
does it change the paper though, a little bit when you erase?
a bad eraser, yes. That one, no, perfectly fine.
So a kneaded eraser is good.
Yeah. It's those darn pink erasers.
Oh. It takes up the stuff on the paper. Yeah.
It does the sizing.
Sizing, right.
Just a single color. And if you're unsure what to do today when you get up on the rooftop, just start with the single color. So I'm looking at I'm going to start on this minor focal point and start to make some marks. And remember, I want to keep this custom tower kind of pale, receding, so it's not nearly as dark, even though it's against that light sky. I know that building has multiple sides. I'm just painting really the column. So very flat. And then I'll switch my brush because I want to start to get a little more busy. And I'm going to block things in. This would be a great point to do an about face and not look at your subject. Because your head will be very sore from going up and down and sideways and this way.
The white you leave here, are you thinking about that before you hit the brush on the page, or does it just kind of happen naturally? Or
it's a good question. It's both actually. If I like it, I leave it. And I also envision it, as I'm doing it, I envision it to be one of a couple things like rooftops, for example. Look at, this is all one brush full of paint. I haven't gone back yet. These are rooftops here.
Yeah.
So they're kind of catching the light.
And you eliminated that other building in front of the custom house.
That's the power of being an artist. You can knock down buildings. I hate that architect. Down with this building. I'm not putting government center in there.
bring back Scully Square.
This is still the same brush
So you're not going to put anything detailed down here.
Probably a little bit, but minimal. What I'm trying to get home is everybody sort of think like a minimalist.
Yeah.
One color. If you can do most of the painting with one brush and thinking about one focal point, that's about as minimal as you can get. Looking up one time, I wanted to, but I was too busy. It's like, I think of us as musicians, and any sort of practice we can do to prepare ourselves is going to make this performance, and that's how I look at it, a little bit easier, a little bit more natural. So I did study drawings last night, and I did study photographs of this.
That's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. Now, when you go upstairs, will you do color, Gary?
Probably not. I keep my, I haven't painted in a couple of days, so I'm a little rusty. And this is the way I start when I'm rusty.
I should be so rusty.
Interesting angles.
Frittata is done if anybody wants a little. Sounds good.
Now, can you imagine a better experience? Painting from a rooftop on Father's Day with frittatas in the oven. I can't. I cannot.
Friends all around.
And friends all around.
So, are you seeing this still as a zigzaggy or more as an explosion from the top center going in different angles?
Yes, the whites that I've left are really striking right now. They're very powerful, but those eventually will be softened. So, yeah, I like them too. And they'll still read, but they won't be as dominant.
You have to find some.
Now, at this point, this is a really interesting stage. I'm starting to get suggestions. Rooftops, I can certainly understand or feel I understand the skyline. I've worked hard to get a few shapes of cars, a little crosswalk, some suggestions of buildings, but also I'm getting suggestions, like here could be a chimney, or here could be the edge of a building, or a wing as the mode. So I let my painting talk to me at this stage. These painters. What are you drinking, Ruth? Vino? Well, I thought it would be much easier up here. Okay. But we're having fun. I see everybody smiling. Hey guys, look like you're painting. Usually later in the painting. God, I'm trying to photograph everybody at work. Yeah, it's showing off again. Very good. So this is the stage that we left our work in, and I want to return to it and finish it to some extent, not trying to keep it more as a sketch and not a overly finished piece. But I want to extend some of these darks that we started. I had an idea to do something in the sky, and so I'm just going to start by defining some of the buildings. Let's see how dark this is. Careful to keep in mind my original thought. Starting to approach the finishing stages by extending some of the darker passages. When I originally finished this, I felt I accomplished an impression, a sort of structure that I could build on. Sometimes that's actually more profitable than trying to really finish everything in one go. In this case, I'm returning to the studio. Sometimes you can return to the location where you started and finish up what you started. There's a little advantage I feel to doing it this way, which is I'm not distracted by my subject. I'm more engaged in my painting. And I can relate areas, exaggerate areas, minimize areas, find some details. And I am doing that specifically around that area where the street makes a turn towards the lower end. There's a couple things that I'll be adding here and there. You see me adding a suggestion of windows, darker rooftops. Basically, these are just shapes that I feel kind of draw the eye inward and reveal the street below, some cars on the street, some signage. Even a couple figures are down there. They're so tiny, though, that they almost disappear. So it's a little easier to do this because I've only used a single color. So I'm not trying to match any color. I have the sepia that I used when I was doing the demonstration, and I can apply that rather freely in the studio without the reference. So this is a good way to finish up a subject in the studio. I hope this was a learning experience, because I'm trying to communicate a way to look at your subject, a complex subject when you're in nature, find something of interest, and then start to break it down by big shapes, lights and darks, and edges. This is what we do when we're painting on location, and it's a great exercise. You can tell we had a lot of fun, and I hope that we can connect like this in the future. These videos are along the same subject. These are part of my library. If you click on them, you'll be taken right to the video. So join me next week when we head out again into the field and develop a subject.